Power on.
The following is a presentation of the Sovryn Tech podcast feed.
It's TIE Fighter Renegades, a Star Wars podcast.
It is TIE Fighter Renegades, and it is also a bit of a late night. We're we're rocking this. Well, fuck, it's almost 10. So, but of course, you can tell from that great laugh that I am not alone. I am being joined by my TIE Fighter Renegades co-host, that being Robin Freebeard. Man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and have we got we're not going to go with the usual format because we're just going to get right into this. We're going to talk about the entirety of Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi. The miniseries, maybe series, might be a season 2 coming.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything on that?
I just rumors that season 2 is not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, well, I would say the way they set it up, it's not outside of the realm of possibility
Right.
either.
Yeah. And if they continue in that vein, then where they left it, I'm okay with that, actually.
Sure. So you're good with like a season 2 coming?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that when
Right.
we get to the talking about the ending of the last episode.
Yes.
But I'm at this point I'm okay with it, despite some other things that we're going to definitely get into here.
Yeah. All right, well, and anyway, it is important to call it Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, because if we just said Star Wars Obi-Wan, that's something totally different. Of course, that's an Xbox game, an original Xbox game.
Oh, yeah.
Which was supposed to be like Jedi Knight 4.
Right,
back in the day.
yeah,
Remember
exactly,
that?
yeah. In fact, they were originally developing it for the PC.
Yes.
And it was going to be using the same engine that they used for Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight.
Right.
And then the whole Xbox, Microsoft dived into the whole console game.
Yeah.
And, I guess made a deal with Lucasfilm to make that exclusive to the Xbox.
Yeah, and whatever happened to it... Now, all right, first off, I actually didn't think the game was that bad.
No.
It gets panned pretty hard.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure why. But then that seems to happen for a lot of... Yeah, all right, we're kind of side subject here. Like, do you have a comment on that?
Well, I think the game can be a little tedious at times.
Yes.
I think the biggest problem for me is it seems pretty obvious that this was originally intended to be a PC game, and I'm not really sure that the controls on the Xbox translate as well as a mouse and keyboard would have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, like, I really, because it's a full story.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. There are great game movies you can find on YouTube or whatever of the gameplay, and I think it's absolutely worth a watch, even though it's not canon anymore.
Right.
But, let me ask you this quick about Star Wars games, because I wonder, there are so many games from that era, other than maybe Racer. An Episode 1
Mm-hmm.
Racer.
Mm-hmm.
Like Starfighter, Jedi Starfighter, and they're all prequel games because you know as well as I do. In fact, I think we might be the only two people on the planet that remember this. If you remember, Lucasfilm / LucasArts said we will never make another original trilogy video game.
Right, yeah.
They came right out and said that in PC Gamer.
Yep.
And that was like code and rule at the time. Of course, that changed. In fact, it didn't take long for it to change because we got Battlefront and Battlefront 2.
Right.
So
I was going to say, thankfully, they changed their mind.
Yes, because those games, especially on PS2, were phenomenal. But I often wonder if there was just like a silent protest by game critics in the late 90s, early aughts, that they didn't like the prequels because a lot of Star Wars fans didn't,
right.
And I get that.
Right.
And they just wanted to bash the prequels in whatever way they could, and this was in their purview. Because go ahead.
They heavily panned the Phantom Menace game too,
which was actually pretty damn good for PlayStation.
Yeah.
In fact, I loved it. It had the music video for it.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because that one did come out on PC, and I didn't think that was a very good PC game, but I thought it was an excellent console game.
Well, you see that. Yeah, great point. And this is funny because I think today we always think the PC game is the best. That wasn't always true at the time. Like Battle for Naboo, in my opinion, one of the best Star Wars games ever made. Battle for Naboo was infinitely better on the N64 than it was on PC. Shouldn't have been that way.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the time, N64 games that came out or Star Wars N64 games would also get a PC release, and the PC version would be leaps and bounds better. Shadows of the Empire, Rogue Squadron,
right?
But Battle for Naboo wasn't the case. Go ahead.
The really annoying part for me back then was they came out with these the first game on PC, for example, Starfighter. And pod racing, but the sequels like Jedi Starfighter and Racer Revenge were console exclusives.
Yeah,
and it was like, what the hell? These were games that were the first games were actually great on the PC, and then you make them the sequels console exclusive. Yeah. I mean, to this day, I still have not played Racer Revenge.
Well, you got my PS2 now, man.
I know.
You rock it. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's a weird thing. But I mean, because here's the thing. Like, I think Jedi Starfighter is a fucking awesome game. And actually, Starfighter, the first one, on Xbox, they came out with a special edition for Xbox only.
Right.
Was dynamite. Like, the extra missions were really, really cool. There's a lot of games from that era, including Bounty Hunter.
That was a console exclusive.
Yeah.
And they're bringing these games back on PS4 and some of them on the Switch.
Yeah, Spider's
But here again, they're not doing any ports to the PC. And I'm racking my brain as to why.
Yeah, why not? That is a great question. So,
because a perfect example are the Rogue Squadron games. Like, the first one was arguably the weakest link. Whereas the two sequels were the best games in the series, and they were console exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, 2 and 3. I mean, if someone made an argument that Rogue Squadron 2 is the greatest Star Wars game ever made, you're not going to get much of an argument from me.
I would debate it, but not that heavily. I would just be like, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. I mean, of course, I would say, no, sorry, TIE Fighter is the greatest game ever made. But, and just flat out, it's just the greatest game ever made. Star Wars is not. But yeah, like you said, I wouldn't disagree with them, or I'd see where they're coming from. So, but let me ask you, and I agree, it is odd that none of this is coming to PC. Especially with Aspyr doing such great work on ports. I don't understand why not go the distance.
Right.
I do think that Rogue Squadron Trilogy Collection, I think that's something coming. Like, I think there's plenty of hints.
Yeah.
And Aspyr is actually doing insane money with these ports.
Right, yeah. If they put a Rogue Squadron Trilogy game, like on the Switch, for example, I'd buy that in a hot minute.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Which, quick announcement, by the way, Blade Runner Enhanced Edition finally came out. It just came out Thursday. I checked it out for about 10 minutes, and it's pretty amazing.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I've read some reports online that there's some bugs.
I'm sure there are, but that's why I only did 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because, like this, so speaking of Aspyr, they released Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Right.
On Switch.
You can't finish it.
Right, you can't finish the game. There is a game-breaking bug.
Right.
In it, and Aspyr knows about it, and they put out some kind of what I guess would equate to a hot fix, to put it in Microsoft terms. But
they finally patched it.
There was some workaround. I don't think they've patched it yet. And,
no. And kind of somewhat disturbingly, like, there was one guy that was just relentless on Twitter about it, that kind of put their feet to the fire, and it was only because of this guy like hounding them online that they even admitted that the problem existed.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Honestly, unless Nintendo is like putting out a game, and even they aren't perfect, I expect, like, I don't rush to Ninja Turtles being the exception. I don't rush to play a game, like, at least not certainly not for the long haul.
Right.
I'll wait. I might buy it day one just to make a statement, but I'll wait 3-4 months before I get more.
There are games far and few between where I'll buy a game day one as a statement.
Right. Blade Runner is one of those. But go ahead.
I haven't bought it yet, just because the stuff I was seeing online is that somebody was describing it as like a hot mess of a remake or adaptation or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
So I am, but by nature I am what's called a patient gamer.
Yeah.
I'll wait till they patch it or it goes on sale.
Right. Well, I mean, I hear you on that. Most games I'll wait like that. Again, there's very few where I like. So Knights of the Old Republic 2. I'm waiting. Because one of the things we do know is they're going to put the Sith Lord DLC on it that actually like finishes the game.
Yeah, that was actually a fan
right
where they basically they took quote cut content that was still in the code.
Yes.
And restored it.
Right. And they cleaned up the game, fixed some bugs and everything like that. And that's supposed to be coming this year. But man, I'll buy that when that comes out because I'm not going to play it until then anyway.
Yeah.
I
mean, you can already get it on PC.
Yeah, you can get it for free.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In fact, I think the GOG version comes with that.
Is that in the package?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good on them. Good on them for that.
Well, they always do that kind of stuff. I mean, they did the same thing with Vampire Bloodlines.
That's true.
Where
yes.
they put the fan patches in there that kind of restored cut content and fixed all the bugs.
Nice. Yeah, I dig that. I like as soon as you said that, I'm like, well, I wish they put total conversion on TIE Fighter, and have that like automatically able to install. But I don't even think that's possible because you have to have the Steam version of TIE Fighter to play total conversion.
Do you?
I think so.
I don't know if that's true.
I'm pretty sure, unless they I mean, I know they've done patches for
okay, because I know the X-Wing Alliance upgrade.
Yeah.
Is
available for GOG.
Yeah, it's agnostic.
Right.
Like they even let you use the original discs.
Yeah, but I think because when I messed with total conversion, I'm pretty sure. Like I kept trying to do it because look, if I got a game on GOG, I'm going to install it with GOG.
Yeah.
Just out from an ethical standpoint.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it said I had to put it on Steam. Go ahead.
It's interesting though. I mean that kind of plays out and I bought TIE Fighter like so many times.
Oh yeah, and I don't care.
I have it on GOG and on Steam, and
we both have the fucking the limited run version of it.
Yeah, and the limited run version I've got sitting right across from me is an original sealed box copy
with the diskettes. That's not even the CD version.
I've got another copy that is open too.
Right.
and the CD version. I mean, like I've paid for that game so many fucking times.
It's worth it.
It's ridiculous.
It's worth it every time. It's just like Super Mario Brothers. I've lost count how many times I bought that game. But whatever platform it's on, okay, fine. Even on the Wii, sure, I'll get the All-Star Collection anyway. Yeah. Well, anyway, let me backtrack on this question. Then I promise, folks, we're going to talk about Obi-Wan. But this is a nice side tangent. I like this. I mean, what do you think of my theory that the reason games like Jedi Starfighter and some others, like a lot of prequel games, the reason they got trashed by the gaming press was simply because they were prequel games? Do you think that's possible?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's like it was something that was they all agreed on and it was consistent across all reviewers that was the reason they didn't like them. But I definitely think that was a fairly prevalent attitude.
Yeah, I mean, because the funny thing is, fast forward just a few years, even after Lucasfilm makes that statement LucasArts makes that statement about we're not going to make original trilogy games anymore, and you do end up with Rogue Squadron 2 on GameCube, like we talked about.
Right.
I mean, the gaming press is, holy shit, this is the greatest thing ever. I mean, like they went nuts.
Right.
But then Clone Wars, which isn't a bad multiplayer game, by the way, and like Bounty Hunter and some others, which I think are fine games, still got trashed. Even Racer Revenge, I don't think got the coverage that it needed, and even that, well, no, I guess that's still technically a prequel game. I was just thinking because you can like unlock Darth Vader in it, and anyway, but yeah. I wonder about that now, and I didn't think about it until we were just talking now. But those games get a bad rap they don't deserve. I mean, actually, Jedi Starfighter should get a ton of credit because you're playing Adi Gallia through most of it. Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal. That like have a Star Wars game with a female lead.
Right.
Like, think of what else does. I'm having a hard time thinking of another.
The Star Wars Lethal Alliance on the PSP and DS.
Yes, right. Which those were Battlefront games, weren't they?
No, they were single player.
Okay.
It's interesting because, like, especially on the DS version, it looks very much like the same kind of vein as Obi-Wan and Jedi Knight.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like a third-person, perspective, shooter.
Mm-hmm. but still rare, right?
Yeah,
I mean that it's a female-led game,
Right,
especially
right.
through most of it.
Yeah, and then you have Battlefront 2.
Yep. Well, that I don't. That is female.
I mean, I would love that game if it wasn't such a fucking bait and switch.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, we do have a female lead, but she's definitely not in control. Some idiot writer is in control. Yeah. Good point. I mean, and you do have like a top female character in Rebel Assault 2, but you never. Rebel Assault 2, but you're never really playing her.
Right.
She's just like your co-pilot at all times. Also, just a phenomenal game. But anyway. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that until now.
They could still do. I mean, I honestly like I think one of the biggest missed opportunities was them not making like a Star Wars Rebels Rebels video game. Because
Sure.
they made a Clone Wars game based off the animated Clone Wars.
They made a few. Yeah.
God, man, I'd love to see a game where you got to play like Hera Syndulla.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Or even like jetpack around as Sabine.
Yeah, right.
I'd be totally on board with that.
Yeah, just a game where you could play all the different characters.
Yeah,
in the
and
series.
using that show's like animation style would have been phenomenal.
Right. But unfortunately, EA was in charge of everything Star Wars video games at the time. So.
Yeah, and they suck.
Yeah.
So.
Well, until recently.
Well, Fallen Order's great.
Yeah, I was going to say, I got to give them credit to Fallen Order.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of what helped that, though, was it had an amazing story. Like, Fallen Order is an awesome story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that, while it was, technically within EA, it was in, like, a separate studio that still kind of had some autonomy.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that actually makes for a great segue. Because I feel like Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, very much played off, I mean, almost as, in some ways, a direct sequel to Fallen Order. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. No, it's definitely in the same time period.
Yeah. I know some people have complained, actually, that second sister from Fallen Order, her story arc is, like, very similar to Reva's. I guess I can kind of see that.
Sort of, yeah. If anything, God, isn't that sad that the character from Fallen Order was like way more sympathetic.
Yes.
Than Reva.
Yes. Yeah, that is something. There is a statement there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because you do get, like, this is the first time I think in live action we've seen Purge Troopers. Those are right out of Fallen Order.
Yeah, there's a rumor going around too that the actor that plays Cal Kestis is going to be in a live action series at some point.
Bring him on for season 2.
Yeah.
Of Obi-Wan.
Right.
I'd be right there.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that because he ended up being actually like a phenomenal character.
Right.
Yeah. Well. So we're in this era. We're in the time of the Jedi Purge, and do we want to get right into Kenobi? Let's do the series review. So a total of 6 episodes. In fact, there seems to be a purpose to that, like why they specifically did 6 instead of like 10 or whatever they felt like doing. We'll certainly talk about that. Ran from, well, yeah, it's interesting because that's because they played multiple episodes. I was going to say, because this ran from end of May to the 22nd of June.
Yeah,
so, it went for a month straight.
Yeah, the first 2 episodes were back-to-back
right.
on the first week.
Right. Okay. So that's how that ended up fitting into a month. This is something that has been in production, has arguably, and we talked about this in the last TIE Fighter Renegades, which I definitely recommend people go back and listen to that, had a troubled production history for varying reasons.
Yeah.
Entire production teams getting fired, writing teams getting fired, right?
I think it was mostly just the writing.
Writing team.
They basically, I wouldn't say they were fired. Is that they hired writers and they wrote something that they ended up deciding to rewrite and hire different writers.
Right. And not only that, but it's also something that was originally supposed to be a movie, as we understand it.
Yeah.
Maybe even a trilogy.
This is going way back to like the beginning of Lucasfilm or Disney taking over Lucasfilm.
Yes. Right. But Disney was wanting to do it as well.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is this, like in the original, like when Disney took over and bought Lucasfilm, one of the things that they were talking about early on, internally, was a Boba Fett movie and an Obi-Wan movie.
Right, which now have both been turned into television shows.
Pretty much, yeah.
After a fashion. I mean, I imagine the Boba Fett movie, I think, would have taken place before A New Hope.
I have good reason to believe that the Boba Fett movie would have been a live-action adaptation of the game 1313, which never came out.
Oh, right.
Because Kathleen Kennedy, back at the time, somebody asked her a pointed question about whether or not they were going to do anything with that particular property, and she said, yes, we have plans for that. And I think, honestly, from what I've heard about the story of 1313, I think it would have made an excellent, movie or television show.
Yeah. I mean, because story was really at the heart of that thing. All we ever got was that quick trailer.
Yeah. And just to be clear, this would have been the story of about Boba Fett as a young man.
Right.
Becoming, the character.
The best that he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Similar, we were also going to have a Darth Maul game that there is actually footage of.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
I know. I would have loved to have had that. And I'm sure that also would have played well into a lot of what we're talking about here. But regardless,
I mean, that could have connected really well with, like I said, kind of like a Rebels era game or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see what state any of these games are in. Cause especially that the demo for Maul was... that looked pretty good.
It's weird. Or like the original Battlefront 3 game, which got canceled.
Yeah, that's another one.
That's another one that footage exists of that looks like it was going to be a really kind of fantastic game.
Yeah, and for some reason I thought somebody was trying to pick up the code on that and do something with it, but maybe I
think they got hit with the C&D.
Yeah, probably. So... Well, anyway, the things that could have been. But it's important to bring up that, this was originally meant to be a film, because I think that's a point I want to... In fact, let's open it up. Let's open up the conversation with that. Do you think 6 episodes, we've watched the entire series. Do you think this would have been better as a movie?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, as soon as we finished watching the last episode, I said... they really stuck the takeoff and the landing on this series.
Yes.
And everything else in between is kind of a mess.
Yes. I think we could probably turn off the microphone right now. That's
the review.
That's the review. It's they takeoff was great. They stuck the landing. But the flight was turbulent as fuck.
Right.
It was just, it was a mess. Oxygen masks coming down, people panicking. It was terrible. It's the worst flight you could imagine. So, but the landing, everybody's fine.
Yeah.
And in fact, the landing was so good. It's let's do season 2.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I was in the middle of this and going, I don't know where this is going, but it's not going anywhere good.
Right.
And by the end of it, you're just like, okay, I want some more.
Yeah. Which is funny, because just side note, I feel that season 1 of Discovery, of Star Trek Discovery, I feel the exact opposite. They fucked up the takeoff. The landing was shit. The flight in the middle was, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But then everything crashed and burned.
Right.
So this is a show with the opposite problem.
Yeah.
And we're certainly going to talk about that. Of course, we did already review. What did we review up to? Episode 1, 2, 3, and 4?
I think so, yeah.
And then we kind of did a mini review on Patreon content. For the Wednesday Q&A, we did a mini review of episode 5.
Right.
And so we have not talked about 6 at all in this. Do you want to? Well, I mean, I think we've really given our feeling about how the series went sort of overall. I guess let's talk about the good stuff first.
Okay.
And let's talk about episode 6, which did end up, I would say is the best episode of the series.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
By a long shot.
Yeah.
The only one that would come close would be episode 1, maybe 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, episode 6 is just, that's the money shot right there.
Yeah.
So I guess if you want to get into it, what was so winning? How did the landing just do that damn good? How about this? What's your favorite scene from episode 6 of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Oh, man.
You can do 2 or 3. It's fine.
Well, the easy choice, of course, is the Obi-Wan Vader fight. I mean,
yeah, in episode 6, not the one in episode 3.
Yeah,
or 4, whatever.
There's a particular line. Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Yeah, I mean,
Spoiler
like,
alerts,
yeah. When Darth Vader's, well, it starts out with, there's like a pause in the fight, and Obi-Wan has scored a major hit on Darth Vader.
Yep.
And
opens his helmet up.
You can see, his face.
Yep. I mean, it's a tin can, and you can see the tuna.
Yeah, and you can hear Hayden Christensen's voice intermixed with James Earl Jones,
which was genius.
Which is kind of similar to what they did in, the season 2 finale of Rebels.
Yep.
With the Ahsoka Vader fight, which I think they like explicitly cribbed from that.
Yes. And in fact, I've heard a lot of people kind of comment on that, and they're saying, well, we don't mind that it was done in Obi-Wan as well, because honestly, most people have never seen Rebels, and they're not wrong.
Right.
Like, I get where they're coming from.
Right. And I think more people needed to, like, experience that moment. I've even said in the past that, that moment it kind of flipped a switch in my head where I finally understood that Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker are the same person.
Right.
Because there were always just kind of, to me, like a hard divide between the two.
Yes.
But, yeah, this does a similar thing. There's a line, where Obi-Wan basically kind of, breaks down and says, "I'm sorry, Anakin, for everything."
Yeah.
And then Vader says, I'm not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did.
Yeah.
And he says it with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And that is just the coup de grace of the entire series.
It's phenomenal. It's a moment like that. It's one of the few from this entire show that I think needs to exist in Star Wars.
Yes.
For a few reasons. One of them is it finally, like now when you see in A New Hope when Obi-Wan says, Vader like killed your father, says that to Luke. Now you get why he says that. And
right.
Now it's not just a certain point of view anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's like no. This
it's
is what
not.
Vader
It's
fucking
not.
said.
It's not Obi-Wan being a dick or trying to cover up, what happened.
Right. And I think the other there's two other beautiful moments that happen within this. One of them is within Return of the Jedi, which you had brought up the other day. But also when now, like I was thinking about this last night as I was falling asleep, as we do, we just think about Star Wars as we're laying down. Nothing's changed since I was 5. I don't know. But anyway, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, oh my God, because now when in Empire Strikes Back, when Vader owns the state that I am your father, now that has insane meaning, because he's not just like fucking with Luke's head, which in a way that he is, but he's like, it's almost the beginning of his path of redemption. In his admittance, I don't want to say path of redemption, but like, there's something in that. And there's even, now it's a point of, because this series in episode 6 really ends with, and I think you get the sense throughout the entire Kenobi series, that this Vader is the lackey of the Emperor, and you really feel that.
Right.
Like, this is the Emperor's enforcer.
Right.
But when you get to Empire Strikes Back, and Vader says, "I am your father," like that has even more weight than it ever had, because now that's also a statement of I am no longer the Emperor's lackey. And that entire like speech that he's giving to Luke, like we can destroy the Emperor, we can rule the galaxy as father and son, has so much meaning now.
Yeah.
Where he's Vader, Anakin Skywalker is reclaiming himself.
Right.
In The Empire Strikes Back, which I don't. I mean, you could read into that before this came out.
Well,
but now it's explicit.
I was going to say that there are chinks in Vader's armor, if you will, metaphorically throughout the entire Star Wars saga. But I think Luke was the only one that was ever had any chance capable of reaching Anakin Skywalker.
Yes.
Because people like Ahsoka and Obi-Wan were from his past, and there was too much baggage there.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. And he has...
Because Anakin does come out in those moments with Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Like, he's there.
Right.
And you can recognize him.
Yeah.
But he's still, he's weighed down by, his subservience to the Emperor.
Right. I'm actually, as much as, because we criticized in our previous review of the first 4 episodes of this, we criticized, and I still would criticize it, but we criticized, like, Obi-Wan, like, why did he go and fight Vader? Why didn't he run away in episode 3, I think it was, or 3 or 4, whichever one that was. And we're like, he didn't even try to convert him. And now I'm like, don't even bother. You know,
Yeah.
like now it makes sense. Like, no, Obi-Wan, like you said, Obi-Wan never had a chance to convert him. Only Luke could. And you get that vitriol from Anakin in, you know, Attack of the Clones.
Right, I
Like,
mean-
you know that he already has this problem with Obi-Wan. It's
Right.
not new.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, even that episode, I forget, was it episode 3 or 4, where they had that fight?
I can't remember. if
But
it was 3 or 4.
I mean, like, you know, there's another moment where you kind of see a chink in Vader's armor because he's like, you know, he's dragging Obi-Wan through the fire and basically like, I'm going to do to you what you did to me.
Yes.
And that's not Darth Vader talking. That's Anakin with his, you know, his issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so that moment is amazing. I think it also plays very nicely, you know, into Return of the Jedi, and some of the things that, you know, that Obi-Wan said to Luke there. It's an amazing moment.
Yeah.
And not only that, fortunately, the fight that is going on between him and Obi-Wan in Episode 6 makes gives it all the build-up it needs for that payoff, because it's a phenomenal fucking fight.
Yeah.
And I mean, man, Obi-Wan he's coming out like Space Jesus, you know, like he's just all these rocks, and he's just lobbing them at Vader.
Right.
And it's just a wrecking machine.
Yeah,
And it's so awesome to see happen. To see Obi-Wan, like, it might be the most powerful expression of Obi-Wan that I've seen on any Star Wars content.
Well, it's interesting too because like Vader's had a lot of different fights with different Force users. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that Obi-Wan is the only one ever to get close enough to like score a hit on that panel on the front of him and mess with his, you know, his breathing apparatus. Mm-hmm. You know, nobody else could get closer than Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because it's like it's metaphorically striking him at the heart.
Right.
You know, like he's just getting right to the heart.
Right. And not only that, it's like he's the guy who can get under Vader's skin.
Right.
Literally and figuratively.
Right. Like that fight, and it was a very well choreographed fight. Like everything about it, the emotion, the scripting, and then the choreography, all of it was just spot on.
Yeah.
I was, totally worth it. And actually, I can imagine I will rewatch that many times over, and it's just gonna there's just gonna be even more that's gonna get picked out of that over time. That was so well done. I mean, I have to agree. I think that's easily it's the best moment of the whole series, certainly of that episode, and just completely makes it worth it. And it makes, I mean, do you think that alone justifies the series' existence?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like you said, since not everybody's going to watch Rebels, that's a moment that needs to exist. In Star Wars for like just action. Like everybody to experience.
Yeah. Do you think? I don't know. Do you think that the reveal, the under the mask reveal to Ahsoka, or the under the mask reveal to Obi-Wan, which one would you say is more powerful?
The one with Ahsoka.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that just because it was the first one to do it. It's oddly enough, I have a stronger connection to Anakin Skywalker via Matt Latner's performance than I do Hayden Christensen.
Yes.
Nothing against Hayden Christensen. I'm not a hater.
Nope, me neither.
But I really feel like that performance and that representation of the character really kind of fully fleshed it out and had a lot more to say about who Anakin Skywalker was.
Yes. Well, let's get it. I mean, then I want to kind of sidetrack into a criticism here of the series overall. Because, so you and I have said this before on TIE Fighter Renegades, that really to us, and again, no shade being thrown at Hayden Christensen. I mean, certainly not for, especially not for me, like Jumper, Virgin Territory. I mean, I can go down the list of movies that this guy has made. I love them. I think they're great. So I genuinely think he's a damn good actor.
Yeah.
but Matt Lanner is Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
That's life, folks.
Yeah.
So, that said, that opinion could have changed more. As great as Hayden Christensen did throughout what we got of him in this, I was disappointed. We needed more Hayden Christensen. Like, they made such a big deal about him coming back.
Yeah.
And that's something I don't think they paid off. That's something I don't think they delivered on. I would have loved a lot more. I mean, even if it was just more like I mean, because it was awesome. I think it was episode 2 of the series where you get that very quick, flash.
That
in the
was
areas.
Brilliant.
Oh yeah, it gave us chills.
Yeah.
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 And more of that even would have been great.
Right.
So I feel like we got so little of Hayden Christensen.
I think the moment that we have so much trouble with in the later episodes where the first fight between Obi-Wan and Vader happened, I think it would have made a lot more sense if we got a sense of how haunted Obi-Wan was.
Yes. Yeah. Even if he was just like dealing with like visions of Anakin or something. Right.
Because
like
you do get that sense that it's in that episode he's almost like a moth being drawn to flame. Right. Like the logical part of you is telling him just run the fuck away. Like you're not ready to deal with this.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's very clear from the moment that he learned that Anakin Skywalker was alive and he was Darth Vader from Reva, that he was, deeply disturbed by this and still haunted by what happened at the Clone Wars.
Yeah, agreed. Well, speaking of people that played Anakin, I guess, so we agree there should have been more Hayden Christensen. Now, I thought, so in episode 6, we actually got a lot of Luke. Or a fair amount of Luke.
Yeah.
And the actor that they had playing him, with the bowl cut hair, I really thought they made him look like Jake Lloyd. From a distance, it looked like Jake Lloyd.
Yeah.
Even the garb they had him wearing.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, for all we know, those are hand-me-downs from...
Fuck, they could have been. The kid was the same size.
Right.
I mean, again, I have no issue with this. I actually thought that was pretty nice. And I thought Luke... What we got of Luke fit and worked.
Yeah.
I have no complaints about what they did with that character.
Yep.
I still think it's dumb. We did find out, okay, how did Luke get that T-16 toy? There was no reason to do that horse shit, but whatever.
Yeah, that's small pickings,
Right.
That's a minor criticism.
Right. I mean, we do get explanation essentially now of when Luke says in A New Hope, I think my uncle knows him. Talking about Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
Now we know where he would get that idea because they talk to each other on the Lars farm.
Yep.
So that's okay. That works for me. I thought actually it was awesome that in episode 6 we got Beru because we got Owen, Uncle Owen, earlier in the show. In fact, he was the highlight. I thought he continued to be fantastic in episode 6. But then Beru came in, and she just kicks ass.
Oh, yeah, she's
names.
a badass, yeah.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, right?
I was like, man, don't touch her blue milk.
Right.
You're in fucking trouble. That was so cool. I mean, instantly, she's taking charge, and,
and it makes sense, too, because, she kind of, even in A New Hope, she kind of dresses Owen down for the way that he treated Luke's, dreams and aspirations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's just not a farmer, Owen.
Yeah, right.
And I thought that was treated incredibly well. It felt really good to see action happening on the Lars farm. Mm-hmm. Not only that, now this is something that for me also paints. This is stuff I'm thinking about when I go to bed. It also paints when Luke and Obi-Wan in A New Hope show up at the Lars farm after the stormtroopers have clearly been there and their bodies are there burning.
Yeah.
They put up a fight.
Yeah.
That didn't go down
right.
easy. And there's probably, they might have dragged them off, but there's probably some dead stormtroopers. And I like getting to think that, knowing that these weren't just old people who can't take care of themselves. Oh no, they'll take on an Inquisitor. I love that. And so now, A New Hope, which in my eyes could use a little improvement, has some improvement to it. I like that as well. But see, the thing is, most of the positives we're talking about, it's all the 6th episode.
Yeah.
Here, you know,
Yeah.
and that's really the issue. I guess we'll get into this. There was no saving grace, as it were, for the character of Reva. It's still just she's still just a terrible character.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was a very predictable arc that she went through, and it just I still don't buy it. I don't believe it. It doesn't work. I don't like it. Like, it's just off. But she's probably going to get a series, or she's going to be in season 2 or something.
Yeah, that's the rumor. I mean,
what do you got?
Now at least she has a possibility of being a different kind of character.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. Or go ahead.
Yeah, but her playing the Inquisitor just didn't work at any level, at any point.
Yeah. Right.
That's done now.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. Well, that's a fair point to bring up, because now I don't have to expect her to act like a fucking Imperial.
Right.
You know, like, because that's what I wanted.
Right.
Or that's what should be, considering she's an Inquisitor in the train. You know, they don't just. You can't sign up to be an Inquisitor, right? Like, you get picked and you get trained,
right.
You know, forcibly, and usually you're losing limbs when it happens. I was disappointed. Like, it feels like all the other Inquisitors, minus the Grand Inquisitor, of course, who made his return at the end of episode 5, they just, like, disappeared after episode 4.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah, there was Fifth Brother and another one of the sisters. I don't remember. Was it?
Yeah. It wasn't 9th.
No.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, they were kind of...
Well, it kind of sucked, because, like, Sun Kang was, you know, that was kind of a big deal to bring him in.
Right.
You know, and I didn't think he was doing a bad job, but it just went away.
Yeah.
Overall, what do you think about the Inquisitor's performance? The Grand Inquisitor, I should say. Yeah.
I still think it was a huge mistake not to bring back...
Jason Isaacs.
Jason Isaacs, yeah. I mean...
Rupert Friend was, he was fine, but...
Fine, okay.
Yeah.
Okay-ish.
Right.
I wasn't a huge fan of his performance, to be honest with you.
Sure.
It just... He was kind of terrifying in Rebels.
Yeah.
Like, right from the beginning.
Yep.
And I just didn't get that with Rupert Friend's performance. He just kind of came off as, like... He was trying too hard.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and maybe it's just one of those things where, like, I didn't think Cad Bane translated super well in Book of Boba Fett, like, to live action.
Yeah.
Like, it something about it just felt really off, when he's one of the most badass characters in Star Wars history.
Right.
You know, but normally he's just animated.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't have as big as a problem with Cad Bane that you did. I get it. Yeah. But at the same time, Rupert Friend is just kind of like, it was too middling, it was too bland, it was not enough. Yeah. Whatever it was not enough.
Yeah, I hear that. Let's talk about, this guy. And this some people love this guy, other people, he annoys the fuck out of them. But the fake Jedi.
Yeah, I thought that's who you were going for. Yeah.
Played by, Kumail Nanjiani, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Of course, best known from Silicon Valley, and he made the Amazon movie The Big Sick, which both of those productions are phenomenal. Like, I went to theaters and saw The Big Sick. That was very good. It's, like, about his actual life. So I don't have anything against the guy, necessarily. But, I mean, did you think his humor fit? Did you think he worked as a character in this?
He's okay. I mean, yeah, he was obviously the comic relief character.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought, like, why didn't they bring Jar Jar back?
Wow. That would have been insane.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
Holy shit. Yeah,
I think Disney's still afraid of him, though.
I mean, at least they give Ahmed best work.
Yeah,
right. They let him do the Jedi Challenge.
Temple, yeah.
Yeah, Jedi Temple Challenge. But that's a hell of an idea. Well,
yeah.
That's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, right. Well, there's going to be if there's going to be a season 2.
I'm on board with this.
Yeah. He certainly deserves better than fucking Duck Wendig did to him.
Yeah. I know. That was so bad.
That was just mean-spirited.
Yeah, it was sad. And clearly Disney is real. I think they're, especially since they made this damn show, they're realizing their mistake of being disrespectful to the sequels or the prequels.
The prequels, yeah.
Is not a good idea.
Right.
And I'm glad they seem to be learning that lesson. I mean, I want them to move on from like, kind of marquee characters, but at the same time, well, let's be respectful where it's deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought Kamal's like, I thought his brand of humor just didn't fit, and I kind of feel like this guy has essentially become, he's like the 21st century Rob Schneider, where like Rob Schneider was like funny at one point, and then suddenly he's just like in every fucking movie, and he's the easy comic relief to pop into a film.
He got typecast as kind of like the comic relief character that you kick around.
Right, and he's just always Rob Schneider.
Yeah,
now,
right.
There's times where that works. If you're Tom Cruise, okay, you can always be Tom Cruise. If you're Brian Sovryn, okay, always be Brian Sovryn. No, I wouldn't put myself in that class. but he's just not that. Kamal's not that kind of guy. Like, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It felt very out of place. To me, it felt out of place especially with the severity of what's going on. I didn't dig it. I mean, and this is the problem. I had the same problem in Last Jedi. I thought the humor. I mean, what Carrie Fisher did landed, but most of the other humor did not fit well because it felt like Marvel humor. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
What do you got?
No, that's a good point. I mean, like, I don't think that he was that egregious.
Yeah, sure.
I can understand what you're saying. I guess I wasn't paying attention as much to that character.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me.
Yeah. No, I hear that. Did you ever watch Silicon Valley?
No, I did not.
Yeah, see, and that might be the difference. Because when you watch that guy for years on there, and he's just always playing the same person,
right? I
think that's part of what throws you out.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, I have the same issue with Forrest Whitaker.
Right.
He's always Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
Except for he's in Star Wars, and then finally he's not Forrest Whitaker anymore.
Right. But then, honestly, I wish he was Forrest Whitaker. Like, we just didn't need that. But all right, whatever. So, yeah, okay. So that was, I mean, because that was one of the big casting, announcements was bringing in Kamal, and I didn't know what they were going to do with it. I didn't think it worked.
I guess I just don't care enough.
Yeah. Maybe, if they made him like a Twi'lek, maybe it would have landed better for me.
Okay.
I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who else?
Well, do you want to talk? I mean, I know we talked about Leia before.
Yeah.
But, like, do you feel any differently than you did at the beginning?
No. I mean, her little droid Lula is preposterous. Like, that's so goddamn annoying. But no, I thought she delivered. I thought one of the best lines, I think, was in episode 5, where Obi-Wan says, where like someone's telling her to shut up, and Obi-Wan says, "If you trust me, I trust her.
Right.
Let her go."
Yeah,
and I was like, that was great. That was a great moment. Episode 5 had its moments too. Just bringing that in quick. Like I think we talked about this on the Q&A, but like I thought the as much as I think the character of Reva sucks, the fight between Reva and Vader was phenomenal. Like this was like Enter the Dragon level shit. And it worked really damn well.
Right.
And like tricking Vader with the separate ship, all that stuff was,
that was
really
brilliant.
cool.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Very well done.
Yeah. Well, and of course you also had an episode fight, the duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Where it's like the flashback.
That worked really well.
Yeah.
So episode 5's up there as far as being a little bit better.
Yeah. Things got better. I mean, I think that the real low point was
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Who else is in it? The gal who played like the Imperial spy, and she was originally from Game of Thrones or whatever. I couldn't give a shit about that character.
That's the thing. I felt the same way about the fake Jedi guy. It's just like they were there.
Yeah.
They served their purpose and then they were gone.
Yeah. Her purpose was bring in the Game of Thrones fans, which for whatever fucking reason, every studio thinks they need to do that.
I mean, she's not a terrible actress.
No, she does fine.
Yeah.
But the only reason she's in that is because she was in Game of Thrones.
Right.
And that's not good enough. to like. I mean, because that's so funny. That's like somehow saying that, well, Star Wars needs Game of Thrones. Like, no, jackass.
I think I would feel differently if if she literally hadn't been a disposable character.
Yes.
That they threw away.
Yeah, they killed her. Yeah, she is disposable. I don't know if they're going to make any big whoop out of like Leia's, because she gives Leia her holster,
right?
Which maybe, I mean, I can think of artwork where she's wearing like a brown holster with her white suit.
Yeah.
Like
you see that in the Leia comics.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Maybe like in Return of the Jedi, that might be her holster. I don't know if they're going to make that kind of claim, but that just felt a little forced. Like,
it did.
I just don't see where, like, oh, this holster means everything to me. And I also, again, it just smacks, and this is kind of the old EU in me, like walking around with a holster, even if it's holding a droid, which if that's not a marketing ploy, I don't know what is, but walking around with a holster on Alderaan just feels anathema, because this is the planet that
has no weapons.
In the old days, has no weapons. I mean, we know now, like with Claudia Gray books and others, that, okay, that's not exactly how Alderaan works in Disney's canon, but I miss the pacifist Alderaan. And I don't know. I get it where it's saying that, all right, this character is not like the other Alderaanians, but you don't need to do that. We already know she's not like the other Alderaanians because she's a fucking descendant of somebody from Naboo.
Right.
So you don't have to tell us this. Anyway.
You know what? But what really did work was, basically the parting conversation between Leia and Obi-Wan.
Yep.
Where he tells her about her parents.
Yes.
And that
beautiful.
was totally beautiful, awesome moment.
Yep.
I felt that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, minus the droid and the holster thing. I thought the actress was, did her job.
Yeah. And well, I think I even said on, previous episodes, as far as I'm concerned, that actress, and what was her name? It's
Vivian Lyra Blair.
Right. Yeah, she can play Leia for the rest of her life, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
And I doubled down on that.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought she delivered, and I thought the use of the character of Leia is also one of the high points of this whole series.
Yeah.
They really did a good job.
Yeah, that was the thing that was really out of left field that kind of just kind of blew away all your expectations of the series.
But it made all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Once it kind of landed. I think that hits most of the characters, that really... I mean, there were some other, extraneous characters that we got introduced to that I think would be great to get in a whole series.
Well, there's one we're forgetting.
Who's that?
The very end.
The very end.
Yes.
Oh, shit. Right. So it was really nice to see Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. And
I was really not expecting that at all because Liam Neeson has been quoted as saying that he's more than willing to reprise the character, but not in a television show.
Yeah.
And I think he threw that out just to sort of divert people and throw them off the scent.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Because that was a surprise almost on the level of Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, it was a moment like that. And, I brought this up to you as soon as we watched it. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. I mean, because we know that his ghost is often on, or is always on, Tatooine.
Right.
And there's some real poetry in that. You can extrapolate a lot from that moment. I thought it was very well done. My gripe is, though, honestly, I would have loved him to be kind of a Mickey character to Obi-Wan's downtrodden Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
And, because, and Vader says it explicitly in Episode 6, it's like, so I see your strength has returned, and says that to Obi-Wan. I think it would have been great if, Qui-Gon was behind Obi-Wan getting his, kind of his mojo back. And they didn't do that. And it would have made the middle part of this series a lot more interesting. But that's a gripe.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with it because then that kind of takes away from Obi-Wan sort of getting his mojo back on his own.
Yeah. I mean, there was a point where he's saying master, and you don't know if he's referencing Qui-Gon or Yoda.
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty sure they're referencing Qui-Gon. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And this is what I was referring to at the beginning of the episode here is like if they do decide to do a season 2 and they go in this direction with like you said having kind of the bringing back the master and student relationship between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, I'm all for that. Give me more.
Yeah. Still though, I'll admit, and I'm with you, and I'd love that. I still think like Episode 3, as in Revenge of the Sith, seems to suggest that Obi-Wan's going to start talking to Qui-Gon, because like Yoda says at the end of the movie, it's like Master Qui-Gon's returned,
right?
And I'm going to teach you how to talk to him. What happened? Like, did he never learn? I kind of want to know what happened there.
Well, I mean, no,
I think 10 years after.
I know, and I think he's been trying the whole time.
That's weird. Because, I mean, see, I hear you, and I'm sure there's a way to logically justify it. But, like, that's like saying Yoda can't train, which, well,
Obi-Wan is not Yoda's failure.
Well, yeah, right.
Okay?
Sure.
Obi-Wan not being able to talk to Qui-Gon is completely on Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And it's clear throughout the series kind of why is because he is still so troubled by the past.
Yeah, sure. Maybe Obi-Wan's just like, look, I'm out. Like, I'll go watch Luke, but I'm out. I'm done. Like, and maybe it was something like that. Which that's something else. Like, I wouldn't mind a book or even a comic that's like exploring a lot. I mean, I know we kind of had a comic that did this, but I wouldn't mind a little more exploration of Obi-Wan's life before the start of the series, but in between episode 3 and this, I'd be totally open to that. And I'm kind of surprised with such a big ticket series that they did not make any like promo material. Like they didn't do any comic books, they didn't do any books, they didn't do any, and I don't even think there's any lined up. It's just odd to me. That they didn't do that, and I would have wanted it.
They've already explored flashbacks in this show.
Mm-hmm.
They're, that's always an opportunity for the future.
That's true. I mean, just like, because, when Rebels came out, A New Dawn came out before the series even started.
Yeah.
And I like that book
I
a lot.
love that book.
Yeah.
That's another one that got critically panned, and I don't get it.
No, right.
And and that is honestly one of the most adult Star Wars novels out there.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
And it's better for it.
Yes. No, I agree with you. And yeah, I find it odd that they didn't try to do that with this. I don't know what their thinking is there, but it doesn't matter. Because if I was expecting logic out of Disney, we'd be here for a while.
Yeah. Well,
so
apparently that's too much of ask in Hollywood in general.
No, the Twinkies will survive before I will when that day comes. That's Mighty Big Twinkie.
I was just going to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. That's a big Twinkie.
Anyway, so, okay. Let's talk about the music for a minute. Episode 6, the music kind of came in.
Yeah, finally. Yeah. In fact, they even brought in, cues from one of my favorite pieces of original trilogy music, which was the...
was that the asteroid field?
Yeah. I love that piece so much, and they used it to perfect effect in this episode.
Yes. Yeah, that was something else I really loved. Like, the amount of... You got some time on the Star Destroyer again, on the bridge.
Yeah.
That was cool to have that and have a Star Destroyer actually in action.
Right.
Which they were probably brand spanking new at that point.
That's something that was just consistently good throughout this entire series was the set design.
Yes.
Like, the way they brought the Inquisitor base to life was perfect. It looked exactly like it did in, Fallen Order.
Yeah, and I thought Vader's throne room was cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel it smelled? Do you feel like... Did it feel to you kind of small time, though? Like, for example, okay, when... It's episode 5, when they're about to rush this... It's not a rebel base, but it might as well be. There's only, maybe 20 stormtroopers?
Yeah.
And you got a Star Destroyer up there.
Yeah.
Don't you think you'd be bringing down, I don't know, a couple hundred? There's fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi behind those doors. You know, like, I agree that the set design, like, it worked, but at the same time, I do feel like you could see the budget constraints at times with this show.
I would say it's actually more apparent earlier, where, like, you know, the mining town or whatever it is that they're hiding out in when Vader shows up.
Yeah. And
even some of the Tatooine sets. These are obviously things that were recycled from The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Which is, I mean, hey, smart money, that's fine.
Right,
but,
yeah.
You know.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
No, I honestly, when it comes down to the Star Destroyer set and the Inquisitor base and even the Coruscant, you know, the Jedi Temple, I thought all of it was phenomenal. I thought they did a really good job.
Okay. Well, tell you what. So we got a surprise here, and that is, I asked in the Discord group for some thoughts from listeners on the Obi-Wan series, and boy, our man Jacob, and I know Rob and I love Jacob. Did he have some thoughts?
Oh,
I mean, there's F-bombs, there's all kinds of stuff, and it's lengthy.
Oh wow!
And do you want to get into that?
Yeah, let's. Yeah. I mean, we're here.
Yeah, what the hell?
When else are we going to talk about?
I know. We've been going for an hour already, but let's do it. Let's. So again, this is from the Patreon only. So you got to be a Sovryn Tech patron to get access to this Discord. And here he goes. He says, "Woo, where do I begin? This was a bigger disappointment than the Book of Boba Fett."
Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a statement.
Yeah.
I don't know that I disagree with him, but let's read on.
Okay.
Of course, that's because they managed to sneak in an episode and a half of The Mandalorian in Book of Boba Fett. Yes, they did.
Yeah, well, I said it before. Oddly enough, the best moments in the Book of Boba Fett were the ones where Boba Fett wasn't in it.
Right. He says, nevertheless, I have issues with Obi-Wan. From a technical standpoint, I wasn't a fan of the direction. And despite the trailers, this really looked like a TV show. Now, stop on that. I don't know that he means like Deborah Chow's directing or just the direction of like the course of the show. What did you think of Deborah Chow's directing overall? She basically directed every episode, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this was her series.
This is her baby, yeah.
Yeah. You know, obviously, you know, the middle of the entire series fell well below that, you know, fantastic episode she did in The Mandalorian.
Yep.
Which to date is still one of the best episodes of The Mandalorian.
Agreed. Yeah.
But here again, like she really stuck the takeoff and landing, and I will stand by that.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you. Okay, so we'll keep going. Let's see. From a technical standpoint, I wasn't a fan of the direction, and despite the trailers, this really looked like a TV show. I can handle that with The Mandalorian because it was the first. It's a better story, and it's more tied to the TV-based Filoniverse anyway. But when I see Obi-Wan and Vader, I need that shit to be cinematic. This just didn't cut it. What do you say to that? Paragraph break, right?
Yeah, if we're talking about the first Vader Obi-Wan fight, yeah, for sure.
That felt totally TV.
Yeah.
That was a complete failure.
Yeah.
Everything about that, the music, the action, everything was wrong about that fight. The middle fight. That's what I'm going to call it from now on, the middle fight.
Yeah. It's funny enough that, you describe it in terms it looked like, the more I think of it is like, it looked like a new BSG set.
Yeah, right. And those are, just some of the worst production values ever. No.
I
mean, they just are. You go from the most expensive show ever made to something that the Sci-Fi Channel's producing. Give me a fucking break. Anyway, sorry. Okay. All right, so moving on. Yeah,
long-time listeners know that whenever I want to get a rise out of Brian, I just mention that.
Oh, fucking A. Yeah. You can never, there is no compliment to be made if you compare something to new Battlestar Galactica. All right, moving on.
Sorry, I wrestled Brian's jimmies a little there.
It's getting late, goddammit. All right, I confirm. Jacob continues, I could forgive the technical failings, however, if it wasn't for so much of the other stuff. I don't mind that Leia was a major character, but I don't think the actress was quite up to the task.
Sorry, I don't agree.
All right, well, there you go. And I mean, we've already made our case on that, so
yeah.
we'll read on. Maybe it's just the fact that she's supposed to be 10, but looks like she's 7? It's interesting. I didn't think about that.
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah, where she maybe looks younger than a 10-year-old, but, age is a funny thing, especially in your kid. Like,
yeah.
Show me a kid who looks like they're the age they are.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded if she was a bit older, and in fact, it would have been really cool. Now, I know she doesn't meet Holdo until she's Amilyn Holdo. I know she doesn't meet her until she's like a teenager in Claudia Gray's books.
Yeah.
But that would have been cool to have the two of them.
Yeah.
Kicking ass. Anyway. But see, this is the thing we forget. Like, how old is she in A New Hope? Isn't she like 6? Or no, she
19.
becomes a senator at 16, so she's 19 in that. Yeah. Okay. But she became a senator at 16. Anyway, yeah, right. If that's still canon, I don't know. Let's see. He says, I don't blame her, and she was a decent performer, but I think they should have cast someone older. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a different critique.
I mean, I get that to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. Honestly, if, I was the casting director and, you're probably going to have, a bunch of different, young actresses.
Yeah.
There probably was one that was older, but honestly, with the performance that she gave, I would go with the actor that gave the better performance than the one that looked closer to the age that you were trying to, match it up to.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about it a little bit, I guess if I were to have any improvement, it wouldn't necessarily that she'd be older. I think it would have been interesting if they cast somebody who looked a little more like Padme, but I don't know. Anyway, that's inconsequential. All right, so reading on. But Leia was just a minor annoyance compared to ... Do I even need to say it? Yeah, we all know it's Reva. Well, you're not going to get any argument from us on that.
No.
I mean, this is just one of the worst Star Wars characters I think ever developed. I mean, it just too powerful. Like, I don't even mind Rey. Like, Rey Skywalker doesn't really bother me, but like Reva comes in like too powerful, too important, too fast, and then just is not delivering the style that her character's position should be, delivered.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll keep reading. Once again, I'm not going to fault the actor, nor would we. Of course, we think Moses Ingram is a fantastic actress. So, no issue there. But anyway, once again, I'm not going to fault the actor. Everyone knows that even great actors don't always give their best performances in Star Wars. I'm looking at you, Natalie. I guess it's a reference to Miss Portman.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my own beef with Natalie Portman these days, but anyway, moving on. So I guess I'm going to have to blame Deborah Chow and the writers. God, what was this character? She sure wasn't an Inquisitor, our point exactly, or at least my point certainly. She looked like a normal human. Inquisitors should look a little off. Yeah, right. We talked about it. She didn't have the eyes.
Right.
Anyway, given that Inquisitors had supposedly been tortured, they could have given her a facial scar. Or neon green eyes, anything. She was dumb as hell, thinking she could take Vader, like that he wouldn't see it coming. Her plan never made any sense, and she killed a lot of innocent people to try and carry it out.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're completely right, Jacob.
Yeah.
And in fact, like, and I like your point about even just give them a facial scar. That's the thing. We know it's canon. We've seen it. What do Inquisitors go through at the beginning of their training? It's fucking brutal. Vader will cut your limbs off just so you understand where you're placed in the pecking order.
Right.
And she got none of that. And all right, so I want to pause on his comments for a moment because maybe he's going to get into it actually, but I don't get it. The idea that like Vader knew who Reva was, and that's why he brought her into the Inquisitorius, like. That whole plot line just doesn't make any sense.
To be honest with you, this is just wild conspiracy theory. I'm totally admitting it. But if I was going to say if there's any element of this entire fucking show that seemed like it was a rewrite, it's her entire character arc.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like maybe there was an agenda to, like, oh hey, like let's rewrite this character to make her give her own show someday.
Yeah.
I think they had that in mind before, like from the very start of this show.
Yeah.
Whereas I have a feeling that if we saw the original scripts, that she would not be either this kind of character or would have been far less important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that whole plot line of, like, her thinking she could get to Vader and kill Vader, like, that... Fuck, that was dumb. I mean, I completely agree with Jacob. Like,
yeah.
Again, nothing about this character makes any damn sense.
No. I mean, she's dumb inside and outside the universe.
Which we talked about, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't fit.
No.
Okay, I'll keep reading. Let's see. Her plan never made any sense. She killed a lot of innocent people to try and carry it out. And her redemption was that she didn't kill a kid. Congratulations. You did the least anyone could ever do.
Right, yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep going. Not killing children isn't hard. And sure, Vader committed untold atrocities before gaining some redemption by tossing old Sheev into the reactor. But we at least felt his emotional journey from behind a fucking mask. Reva's story was all tell, no show. Well, maybe a little show. She was about to torture Leia, after all. And does she have some unknown healing factor? Remember when Qui-Gon was run through with a lightsaber? How the fuck did she make it to Tatooine?
Did I not say this to you? Like this, like one of the like. We have two instances of this just in this show alone,
right? Of
characters getting run through
in the stomach
and shrugging it off.
Yeah. So Reva, it happened to her seemingly twice, meaning when she was a little kid.
Yeah.
And then when she's an adult.
Right.
Now, with the Grand Inquisitor, okay, in canon, Powans have, like, 2 stomachs, so he could survive that. Great. But she's human. And so how do you explain that she survived when she was a little kid? Again, really does make no sense. Some people are arguing where that lightsaber thrust went through, but come on. I mean, you got Anakin Skywalker, the most powerful Jedi in history, on a killing spree. I don't think he's going to miss the mark. And then, her getting run through by Vader, in Episode 5 of this. How did she make it to Tatooine? I have no fucking idea, because it seemed like she was okay. The only explanation that can be given, and you and I talked about this, Rob, and I actually talked about this way back when The Mandalorian first came out and when Rise of Skywalker first came out. Because if you remember, they did a special, they released an episode of The Mandalorian Season 1 early before Rise of Skywalker premiered, because there was something in it that was relevant to what would happen in Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
Now, what was relevant was Grogu healing Carl Weathers. Now, as much as I wish Grogu was there in Rocky IV to keep Apollo Creed from dying, that didn't happen, but we've got it here. And then you have in Rise of Skywalker where Rey heals that snake.
Right.
Okay? Now, I had said that at the time. I thought it would have been fascinating if the ability to heal oneself was actually a dark side power.
Right.
And I was pulling that from, because I was saying, when I talked about this, it's like, okay, if anybody thinks it's some kind of new power, it's not. Because in Shadows of the Empire, which granted is no longer canon, but in Shadows of the Empire from the 90s, it's one of the most powerful moments in Star Wars history, in my opinion, canon or not, where Vader is healing himself in his chamber, and he's using the dark side.
Yep.
And he's able to, breathe without his mask.
Yep.
The problem is that as soon as he's able to breathe without his mask, he becomes happy, and he's filled with the light side, and he loses all that healing that he garnered in through the dark side. So the idea that the dark side is what actually heals you, or gives you the ability to heal, is not new to Star Wars at all.
Right.
And so you could kind of make an argument, and in fact, the Grand Inquisitor even says that, revenge does wonders for, your ability to survive or whatever. He makes that comment in Episode 5.
Right.
You could kind of make an argument that Reva, because she's so filled with hate, that it heals her and allows her to keep on going. I think that you could easily make an argument that's what allowed Darth Maul to survive, because he was just filled with so much hate that it kept him alive.
Yeah.
And I think it can explain why didn't Qui-Gon survive, a gash to the stomach.
Right.
And that's because he's actually the good guy.
Yeah. Well, I have a very specific theory about this, too, that I've been thinking about for a while. And Rey even mentions it in The Rise of Skywalker, where I think after she heals the snake, she even mentions that she used some of her own life force or essence to heal the snake. And I think it is specifically a dark side power because it is a misuse of the living force. And that you have to take in order to either give to someone else or to give to yourself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I think it ultimately speaks to, fuck the fact that Palpatine was in Episode 9, but, or was in Rise of Skywalker, but, his ability to transfer, his consciousness, to transfer himself to another body, that is clearly a Sith power, especially when you read the novel. And that might be part of this, that transference. Because you're right, Rey calls it a transference in Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
Yeah. So that's good. I pick up what you're putting down there.
Yeah, and the reason that Qui-Gon couldn't do it because he, more than any other Jedi, was in tune with the living force.
Right.
And he understood that that was a violation. Yes.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, at the same time, of course, it's bullshit. This is not... She should have been dead. Should have been dead twice. It just... I get that. But if I was going to try and justify it, and again, it does appeal ultimately for me to one of my favorite moments in Star Wars, canon or not, that being Shadows of the Empire with Vader, it fits. And maybe it even explains how the Grand Inquisitor survived, 2 stomachs or not. So, interesting. I like that. And what I really like about that, it reminds me of, just quick, and then we'll keep reading, because I know we're going forever here. It reminds me of powerful lessons in an episode of Star Trek the original series, that being The Enemy Within. So episode 5 of season 1, where Kirk gets split into 2, and there's a good Kirk and an evil Kirk. But you find out it's not that simple. There's actually parts of the evil Kirk that are very endearing and that are what allow him to actually be the greatest captain in history.
Right.
And this plays into that, I think. That, okay, yeah, we think of the dark side as evil, but actually there's elements within the dark side that, could have kept Apollo Creed alive in Rocky IV, but it didn't. But, go ahead.
That's interesting, too, because,
Sure.
at the end of the episode when, Obi-Wan is saying goodbye to Leia and telling her about Anakin and about Padme, one of the virtues that he mentions about Anakin was he was passionate. And that is a Sith virtue.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're thinking far more into it than anybody who wrote this shit. But at least we can explain it or try, give something. Yeah, right on. That's interesting. Okay. So anyway, Jacob, we're with you. We're just tossing out, some theories on how this could have worked. So shall we read on?
Yeah.
He says, so there's much more I could say about Reva, but I'll leave it at that. And I hear you. We could complain about that character all day long. Now, what did I like? Plenty. Ewan fucking brought it and was unsurprisingly the best thing about the show. The show has his name, so he better be, right? I love the flashback duel between him and Anakin. And in spite of its location on generic rock planet, the final duel between Obi-Wan and Darth was great too. Yeah, it was a generic rock planet.
Yeah, but at least it had some atmosphere and mood.
Yeah, at least it wasn't Tatooine.
Yeah, or that, stupid mining town.
Right. Let's see, the blending of the Anakin and Vader voices was chilling. I totally agree. I thought that was genius.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Right, we talked about that earlier. Reading on Echoes of Twilight of the Apprentice. Yep, right on. Of course, that's the aforementioned Rebels episode, or finale for season 2.
Yep.
That really paid off, though they missed an obvious chance for Vader to claim he had the high ground.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. Well, I think that would have been too easy.
Yeah. But then they go to the anticlimax on Tatooine. Ugh. Tala was a great new character, and I'm a bit disappointed they killed her off. That must be the Game of Thrones gal. Yeah, I mean, that's taste. Meanwhile, Reva lives. I always love it when Jimmy Smith shows up, and it was cool to see Qui-Gon for 3.5 seconds.
Yes.
Totally agreed on both of those.
Yep.
Jimmy Smith was great. Even at the end, he was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That was great.
I think he's part of, the sticking, the taking off, and the landing.
Yes.
He's like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate that it's amazing to see so much of Alderaan finally. I mean, you got some of it in Revenge of the Sith, but it's actually been exceptionally rare in live action, or even animated. It's beautiful to finally get that, and that also adds weight to A New Hope.
Yeah.
Like when you see Alderaan blow up, you have an idea now of what the fuck that was.
I think that was probably some of my favorite elements of the first couple episodes is not just seeing more of Alderaan, but seeing more of the relationship between Bail and Leia.
Yes. Yeah. I think they're setting up... right. Sorry, I was thinking Breya. But yes, between Bail and Leia is great. I love getting to see Breya finally. This is a character that deserves so much exploration.
Yeah, she got like 2 seconds in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I think in the novels at least we're going to get... I've talked about this in other TIE Fighter Renegades. We're going to start getting more of her, but I think this is also helping tee that off.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, reading on. Overall, the story was a big mess. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Mm-hmm. The primary antagonist didn't work at all. Yeah, totally agree with you there. And I'd probably rate this 6 out of 10, so just barely passing. I didn't get any of the excitement I got through 2.5 seasons of The Mandalorian, though I probably had unreasonably high expectations.
2.5. I love that.
It's all Book of Boba Fett is.
Right.
Season 0.5.
0.5, yeah.
I want to say, or let me read this next part. Once again, I was burned by by not following the advice I often give myself of don't trust the trailer. Yeah, that's good advice. I do want to say, I don't think you had unreasonable high expectations. I think if you're bringing in Ewan McGregor, you have every reason to hold high expectations for this. It should not be, it should feel cinematic. And we'll talk about that more in a second. I mean, do you agree with that statement, Rob?
Yeah, I don't, and I mean, we talked about. I see, where the elements where it fails in having any kind of cinematic gravitas or flavor. Yeah. But there are moments where it does, and those moments do work really well.
Sure. If this was a little ranty, that's just because it's a little more fun that way. Did I hate it? No, but it wasn't top tier Star Wars. Just star mess. I like that. Meh.
Yeah.
Star meh.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that work? Maybe I'm forcing it. But man, there it is, the last dig. No, Jacob, overall, I agree with you, in many ways, other than maybe the Leia thing.
Well, we said it right from the start.
Yeah.
We kind of said, the takeoff and landing were great, and the rest of the ride was turbulent as fuck. I mean, that is the whole review.
Yes, yeah. This is something that 2 things I think could have really, really helped the show, and that is either you allow people to binge watch it, or you just go ahead and binge watch it, and then you kind of don't have time to think, and you're not dwelling on this shit for a week. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Or it could have easily been a movie. There's so much shit that just did not need to be there.
Right.
The middle fight between Vader and Obi-Wan didn't even have to happen.
No.
Also, even if it did, it could have been 30 seconds, and like you said, Rob, Obi-Wan runs. You know what I mean? And that's all it should have been. There's really no good reason for this to be a 6-episode miniseries, in my opinion. And that's might be its big, to me, other than Reva, its biggest flaw is it's stretched out, pacing's off at times, and there's just stuff that's just dumb to fill it in.
I got to tell you, if I were to rewatch this series, I might actually skip episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah, and I wonder what that would feel like. I bet it'd feel pretty natural. Yeah. Well, so I want to. This leads to kind of what I think will be more of the last, or kind of the phasing out of the conversation, because we were given a hint, and we talked about this on the Patreon Q&A that we did. We were given a hint to the idea that There's 6 episodes of this, and each one is correlative to moments, things, cues that happen in the episodes 1 through 6 of the Skywalker saga.
Right.
That being from Phantom Menace to Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And once you hear that, you do see it, and you do get it, and some of it's more blatant than others.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, and I didn't hear that until episode 5, until after episode 5, Screen
Right.
Crush pointed it out.
Right.
And then when episode 6 rolled around and we watched that, as great as as so much of that was, it annoyed me.
Yeah.
How much of that was Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
right down to Reva showing up on Tatooine in the beginning of the episode, wearing a dark fucking cloak, just like Luke returning to Tatooine in Return of the Jedi.
I said to you, verbatim that, I kind of wish I hadn't have noticed that until after I finished the entire series.
Yeah. I need to research this more because I want to hear what's even the good argument for doing this. Because again, now I don't like it. I didn't even like it when like Obi-Wan's tricking the fucking stormtroopers in episode 4 of all things.
Yeah.
Which again, it's that
Right.
that rhyme,
Right.
that poetry.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think
Tricking with a noise.
I think that's it. I think they're trying too hard to make it like, George would do it.
Yeah, but that's so like. It's still. I hear you. That's a why, but it still leaves me with like a bigger why. Like. It's just it takes so much attention to detail to do that. And when we talked about this before, I had said, if you can pay that much attention to what you're doing, why can't you make a good fucking show?
Right. Or why can't you pay attention to other details that need just as much? Like another nitpick that I had that actually occurred in episode 6 drove me crazy. I literally stopped the episode because it pissed me off so much. Was like, they're trying to escape on this ship and the hyperdrive is broken.
Right.
And Obi-Wan gets the idea is like, well, Vader's just after me. I'll leave and they'll leave you guys alone.
Right.
And then he takes off in his shuttle, and the Star Destroyer, goes and chases Obi-Wan, and they get away. Fine.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the episode, Obi-Wan takes off in this shuttle and goes into hyperspace.
Right.
And I'm like, what the fuck? If this thing had a working hyperdrive, why didn't they just cannibalize it and use it on the ship just to get away? Period.
Exactly.
It
made
God.
no sense.
It pissed because you know what I was thinking when Vader and Obi-Wan landed on the planet? What I was thinking is, oh, well, the shuttle's got a hyperdrive. He'll just steal Vader's ship.
Yeah.
That would have been the logical thing to do.
Right. Yeah, that made no sense. I'm totally with you on that. Speaking of shuttles, like that's another that was another thing where it's rhyming with Return of the Jedi, where like Vader's like prepare my shuttle, and it's it's a Lambda class, which was nice to finally see those. I was starting to wonder if Disney's like afraid of using that design because they keep using the pyramid shuttle design.
Yeah.
Be it in Rogue One or the sequel trilogy or whatever.
Well, even in this series with
that's what I mean.
Inquisitor, yeah.
I was wondering, like, what do you guys have something against Lambda shuttles? Like, I thought they were actually pretty badass. And, like, the Emperor's is fucking impenetrable. But,
you know what?
Go ahead.
I just thought of this right now. Like, the Inquisitors have their own TIE fighters with hyperdrives.
Right.
Why didn't we see any?
Yeah. Well, see, this is where I think Jacob's on that, like, the budget.
Yeah.
The budget got in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. Yeah, anyway, and there's even, like, lines in Episode 6 ripped right out of Return of the Jedi. Like, where Obi-Wan says, then my friend is truly dead.
Right.
Which that's totally playing off of Luke Skywalker saying in Return of the Jedi to Vader, then my father is truly dead.
Right.
And I get it. Like, I've never really had a problem with the fact that every single Star Wars story, somebody has to say I have a bad feeling about this. That's fine. Like, okay, I get it. That's our thing. You know, it's like live long and prosper in Star Trek. Okay, it's Star Wars. But this is getting annoying. Like, stop this fucking appeal.
It's too on the nose.
Yeah. And
it's. I mean, I know you haven't watched it, but it's the reason I fucking hate Lower Decks.
Oh, with Star Trek,
It is just way too on the nose.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of, like, hey, you remember that time in next gen when we did this? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Know what I mean? Know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, and it also feels like, and you can read actual scientific research on this, like full research papers about how music today, like, does music all sound the same today? Actually, yes, it does. And that's on purpose.
It's all following a formula.
Right, exactly. And it is meant for, the music is literally meant for it to sound like a hit that you knew previously. So that it's there's a term for it and it's escaping me. But you're supposed to like it by association.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole thing of it's the exploitation of nostalgia rather than homage. Which
Right.
Homage is fine.
Right.
You do
Homage is tribute.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Where this is, like I said, it's
exploitation.
It's the exploitation of nostalgia.
Right. Yeah, and so I feel like Disney's doing that. We're like, okay, we'll put in the familiar beats. So to the dum-dums, it feels like Star Wars. Like, yeah, this is Star Wars. And the only people who are going to notice are the smart marks, like you and me. And we're going to complain about it, but then, they're going to get our, to some degree, they're going to get our money either way, so they don't care if they piss us off.
Right.
And that's kind of the weird cycle of this whole thing.
Well, they didn't get any money from me on this one.
No, they didn't get a dime from me either. I mean, basically, the only money they get from me now is I buy every one of their books on Audible, and that's it.
Yeah.
With a credit.
Yeah, I keep trying to tell you don't have to do that.
I know, but I keep doing it. And actually, that new, what is it, Shadow of the Sith or something? The new book that's with Luke and Lando actually sounds amazing. I can't wait for that.
Okay. I saw that pop up on my Audible thing because I've been listening to Audible on my way to work and from work, and I'm just honestly like I saw that and I was like, oh, another one. Okay, I'm like,
yeah, I don't know, but I feel like we got kind of set up for this with, like, because we from Battlefront 2 we knew that Luke and Lando did some business.
Yeah,
they were traveling around, and I wanted to know more about that.
Yeah.
But apparently this is, like, they're going to get into some Sith shit with this, and I'm excited for it. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah. I mean, I think the sequel trilogy kind of like diminished the Sith. But
yeah, see, I don't. I agree, and then at the same time I don't, because like all they got to do is explain it to me. Like, I love the idea of the Sith Eternal, but explain it to me. Like give me the big picture.
Yeah.
But anyway, I hear you on that. Well, we'll see, and we'll certainly do a review on TIE Fighter Renegades.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just that I with the comics and the novels, I think they've messed it up.
It's too much. That's one thing.
It's not just that it's too much, but it's a lot of it's just it's getting into the territory that some of the EU books had problems with. They're just garbage. I think like honestly, the whole High Republic stuff, it just kind of like ruined my taste for Star Wars books and comics.
Yeah.
And the shit that they pulled off with the Vader comic where Vader goes to Exegol.
Yeah.
I hated that so much.
Yeah. I hear your arguments on that. And at some point maybe we will deep dive more. Because I don't know, like the Crimson Reign series that they're doing right now, I'm really digging. But I get you. There's a lot of points where they've faltered really hard. And it's more misses than hits at this point. And the High Republic there's elements that I think are awesome, but then there's so much that's just like wrong. And
it's just, to me, fundamentally just flawed.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, I don't dig this thing that they did, like where they were mimicking like beats from the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. I don't think it's even a good idea. I don't understand what the point was. It's not artistic. It's not like clever. It's just annoying, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I get the sense that there's somebody over there at Lucasfilm who thinks they're clever.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, are they thinking that? Well, you destroy a city and then you build on top of it. Like Jerusalem has been rebuilt 20 times. Is that what they're thinking? That they can just keep doing that? Anyway, I don't understand. Regardless,
here again, I think it's an element of like somebody in Lucasfilm thinks they're clever and they're like, well, I'll show them that we can do a Star Wars 2. Look at this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like I'm one of the cool kids too. I can do it.
Yeah. I think you're right, and it's not a good direction because, like, Star Wars has always borrowed from the best in entertainment. Outright steals, often enough.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of Book of Boba Fett was Lawrence of Arabia and Man Who Would Be King?
All right.
I mean, right down to the Egyptian hieroglyphs, frankly. But when Star Wars starts stealing from itself...
That's dumb. It's so dumb.
That doesn't. It's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah, right.
There's degradation.
Yeah.
At a certain point, we know this. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've cloned people, but we have an idea how that works. And this is just. I mean, it's like it's so funny. It's like a meta Clone Wars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of the reasons why bringing the Emperor back in Rise of Skywalker was such utter fucking shit.
Yeah.
Because they were just copying off of Dark Empire.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
not even in a good way.
Right. Yeah, I've been claiming that for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, Tom Veach should have gotten a huge paycheck because they took that whole cloth. Well, anyway, so all that said, Obi-Wan. Jacob gave it a 6 out of 10. Out of 10, what are you going to give it?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
You're going to give it a 6?
Yeah, 6.5. I'm not ready to give it a 7.
Yeah.
If we cut out episodes 3 and 4, I could probably give it a 7.
Yep.
But those 2 episodes are just so fucking terrible.
Yeah.
That it brings the whole thing down.
Yeah. I'm with you.
At the same time, it's not so bad that it's like ruined my excitement for future Star Wars projects.
Right.
I'm still intensely looking forward to Andor later this year.
Same. Yeah, and Bad Batch season 2. There's lots of great stuff to get excited about, I think, or what could be great anyway. I think I'm going to go with 6 out of 10 too, because the character of Reva is just so horrible. She's 2 points off automatically.
Yeah.
And then take a point off for episode 3 and 4. I mean, and that's...
There you go, 6.
That's a 6.
Yep.
And even that, I feel like I'm being a little bit generous. I will say, though, nothing's going to... Like, I think you could get past the episode 3 and 4 problem if you were able to binge watch it.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with serialized television. It begs to be binge watched. And when you can't, it fails. Just like I think there could be an argument that like some of this new Star Trek might actually be pretty damn good if you can watch the entire story at once. Instead of like in these little chunks. Because otherwise the parts are not as great as the whole, and you're just thinking too much of the negatives of the parts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if they got to get over this weekly release shit. Disney's got to stop that because it's just not working.
Yeah, but they got to. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen because they got to hold on to their subscriptions.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Why there's this dearth of Star Wars and Marvel shows is because like if they aren't constantly coming out with more and more and more, they're going to lose those subs.
Yeah.
I mean, they certainly lost me after the first year.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not sticking with them. I'm totally with you on that. Well, there it is. So 6 out of 10 across the board here.
And it wouldn't have even been that strong if episode 6 hadn't been as strong as it was.
Yeah.
This easily could have been a 4 out of 10.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say 4 out of 10 if it wasn't for the strength of episode 6 and the flashback sequences.
Yeah.
Those put it over the top.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this would have been a lot worse. And that's so sad to say because, I mean, let's be honest. Disney has done some great shit.
Yeah.
Rebels was amazing. Rogue One is awesome. Solo's not even, like, bad. It's just not great.
Yeah.
Bad
Batch is good.
Bad Batch is very good. there's a lot out there that's actually really good, and I think that's a problem too. Is that as far as series go, Disney actually has there's more hits than there are misses, and this sort of feels like it's a miss. Ultimately, even if it is a 6 out of 10, it doesn't live up to the hype. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, like I said, if you could cut out the middle. If you turned this into a movie and just used the elements from the first 2 and the last 2 episodes, it would have been great.
Yep, I agree.
It really would have been great.
I
would love to see a fan edit of this.
It'll come.
And to cut it down to a 2-hour affair.
Yeah. Do the same with Book of Boba Fett, actually. Like that might help things along.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we've talked about this, but I think they could just re-edit that and rearrange all of the
put all the flashbacks in one episode.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Agreed. All right. Well, anyway, it's almost. I think a pumpkin is turning into a carriage right now. And somebody has lost their slipper. It is getting late. So I think we can wrap this baby up. But like we said, there's still exciting or stuff to be excited about to come out. And we will be covering it as it does. Rob, always great to, we're right here in the museum, in your museum, and always a pleasure. Actually, I just look over there, there's the Tanta V4. Amazing. I'm surprised we didn't see that show up. Did we? No. Okay. All right. Well, anyway.
But I mean, it was around, because we saw it in episode 3.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. The Tanta V4 made it all the way to Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
Right.
So, hopefully we'll make it that long. So we'll wrap this one up, and we'll see all of you on the other side.